afternoon. At the tone, Pacific Daylight Time will be 5, 4, and 30 seconds.
What? Oh my God, we're having an earthquake. Wait a minute. Hold on. Can you feel that? Yes, I sure can. Okay, this is interesting. There go the lights. Oh.
I'm Leuschner Andersen, and we're at the Scotts Valley Library, and it's what's today?
The 28th.
The 28th.
It's the 28th of August, and we're here to talk about the 1989 earthquake.
89.
89, yes. I think that's what I said.
It sounded like 99, but
oh no,
I can't believe it was 30 years ago.
89, yeah. So how long have you lived in Santa Cruz?
I was born in San Jose, but I moved to Santa Cruz as a baby. Actually, I lived right down the street from here. Until I was like about 5, and then I moved to the west side of Santa Cruz, and I lived there until I was an adult.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. So the reason we're here, what were you doing during the earthquake?
Yeah, I was very young. I was 7, so I really distinctly remember I was so young that I was pretending. I was in a tree. I was climbing a tree, playing with my friend, and I had a bunch of ripped up leaves in my hand because I was pretending that I was a aquarium worker and feeding the fish.
Cool.
Yeah, it's so funny how that just sticks in my brain. Yeah, and then it happened, and I fell out of the tree, and I tried to get to my parents. It's so strange when something like that happens, because I don't know why we want to kind of go inside or just, take cover.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I was ever taught any, stop, drop, and roll. That's for fire, but
Yeah.
yeah. And so I tried to get to my front door, but the fence was hitting the ground, and my friend took off for home, and
Oh no.
I was like, don't go, because it was kind of far, and it felt like it lasted forever.
Yeah.
Really strange. I wonder, do you know how long it lasted?
I think it was 15 seconds.
Wow, that's a long time. So
Yeah. Well, when everything kind of slows down, it seems
Yeah.
to take a much longer time. Did you know that it was an earthquake when it happened?
Yeah, I'm sure that, at first I was like, whoa, and I just fell out of the tree.
Yeah.
But the ground was definitely, you couldn't really, you were kind of not being able to walk.
Over.
Yeah, and I was scared of the fence, because I was trying to get to my front door. That was my goal.
Yeah.
But the fence was just hitting the ground, and then I was like, that's not a good idea. And
Yeah.
I don't remember what happened when it stopped, though.
Did you make it inside eventually?
I'm not sure. I really don't know. I definitely remember the after,
Yeah.
the
Tell me about
aftershocks and stuff. Yeah. So there's something I really, really loved about Santa Cruz was that, it was a disaster, obviously, but the whole neighborhood just, we just all bonded together and just were really, it was just really cool to see that happen. And it was scary because there were so many aftershocks, and that was already traumatic, so it was like trying to, deal with that trauma at 7 years old. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you feel like it was really traumatizing?
Yeah, I don't know how long it took me to, not feel like that, but I know that it was really scary. I remember hanging out underneath our dining table, and just, with my friends, and just kind of that anticipation of those aftershocks was terrifying. It really was.
Yeah.
Because we're like, is this going to happen again,
Yeah. How
Scary.
did your family deal?
My mother had just had a surgery, and my brother was a toddler, and they had a waterbed.
Oh no.
So, they were sweet, but that's what I mean. That was the cool thing, was that we really bonded together, and we're I just have good memories of us having family time, not being able to watch TV or anything, and
Sure.
just be together.
Did you have power outages, gas off?
Oh yeah, our house got knocked off its I mean, like you could kind of tell it was kind of knocked off the foundation. And, you know, there was nothing, like everyone kind of had to help out each other. So I remember people bringing over water, and I got to hang out with my friends, so.
Yeah. Was your schooling affected? Because October is school, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I know we got to stay home, and then I know that the power came back not too long after. You know, I might be filling in the blanks though.
Sure.
It's so funny.
Of course.
Remember things differently.
Did it impact your life in any significant way?
Yeah, I think it did. The day that the October 17th, my grandfather ended up passing away on that day.
Oh my God.
Like a year later or 2 years later, something like that. So I know that I was still kind of dealing with the whole, it was just kind of a tumultuous time for a 7-year-old, you know, and then, so, you know, I just remember that being the anniversary and then being upset about that, of course, and, yeah, so it was hard.
Yeah. Did you see it affect the community in any way?
Yeah, I did. Especially even in the years since then, like, it's always the question, where were you, you know? It's a cool, I mean, not just a conversation starter, but it's cool to just, you know, bond over that kind of thing. And I wouldn't want another disaster to happen, but there was something really beautiful about how everyone came together, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's, I guess that's the only time you can really see that totally happen, when, you know, people have to step up. If everything's going good, then.
Yeah, no one notices.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific memories of that, or like examples of that?
Well, the Cooper House was a big place for musicians. I'm a musician, and my father's a musician, and my mother's a singer, and so I remember that really affected them, because they played there, and, you know. Yeah. And my first gig, actually, was before then, at Adolph's, which was this, well, it's now, I think it's China One. Anyway, it was an Italian restaurant on water. Oh. And I sang there, but I just remember, you know, people always talking about the Cooper House, and then when did they redo it? I think they ended up putting it somewhere else.
They tore it down.
Right.
And then now it's, I don't know exactly, but I think it's like that building next to Abbott Square.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so I remember that just kind of, you know, I mean, Santa Cruz is a really good city for musicians and playing out, but I think that was a big blow.
Did you go to the Cooper House as a kid?
I did.
You have memories of it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, a lot of people that I've interviewed talk about the Cooper House and how much of a loss that was for the community.
Yeah.
And they talk about the band Warmth.
Yeah.
Which I can't say I have any recollection of, but...
Yeah, and the Pacific Coffee, I mean, it's still there, right?
Santa Cruz Coffee Roasters?
Yeah, I remember, because I have this morbid fascination, you know, so I was reading about, you know, who passed away in Santa Cruz in the earthquake, and I remember there was someone there, and so, you know, that always affected me every time I was standing in line for chai, just thinking like, man, you know, this all crumbled around people, and you could be hurt in a blink of an eye, and yeah.
Did it change your perspective on anything, like just that kind of, that modality of thinking?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think having that happen to me so young, I was always kind of like prepared, or just always kind of like not shocked. And I don't know whether, of course I can't know whether I would have done this anyway, but I've always had that kind of curiosity of just like, I want to know the worst things that can happen in the world, because I don't like to be surprised, or, you know, like I hear people say that, I never thought that could happen here, and I'm like, well, it could happen anywhere, you know, I mean, it's like, people say it's, you know, it's bad, but it's actually like a way of me being able to find the good in things, and also being smart and safe, you know.
Yeah, knowledge is power.
Yeah, exactly.
You have knowledge of these things.
I'm not going to be like, la 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 la, it's not happening.
Right.
Some people do that.
Unfortunately, yeah. You mentioned being kind of mentally prepared for these things. Do you take any physical preparations? Do you have water or earthquake kit kind of thing?
I have an uncle who's a little overboard with all that. Like, I think he has a bunker, really. Yeah, not that we could get there in time, but
Sure.
just in case. Yeah, I mean, I have provisions, and I have, I don't put things really where they can fall on my head, while I'm sleeping or something like that. But I do live in a studio. My house is a music studio, and so there's musical equipment everywhere. So something's gonna get destroyed if we have another earthquake. I'm pretty sure, but it's insured, so it's okay.
Good. Yeah. Earthquake insurance is. People underestimate the power of these things,
or floods, but I think we need to worry about the earthquakes.
Yeah, here in California.
Yeah, and then I lived off of San Andreas Road.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't know how close that is, but I just meant, the fault, and always hearing these updates about, what's happening, and and then the weather was so strange that day. It really was. It was like thick air and like hot, and it was October, even though we're kind of used to that warmer, in the fall, kind of like more warm, after the summer. But it was strange. There's something weird about that. I don't, once again, I'm not sure if that's because it actually was, or, I've talked with other people about it too.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny that you mention that, because now we know it is earthquake weather.
Right.
And people refer to it as earthquake weather. And that is a direct product of that earthquake.
Definitely.
Because the weather was so uncharacteristic for Santa Cruz at the time.
Yeah, and we've had days kind of like that since then. Because I know people talk about it, they're like, oh, it's kind of,
It's earthquake weather.
Yeah, it's hot and it's, weird, but, who knows whether it was like more weird, we'll only know when there's actually an earthquake, whether that's for real, but it does make me a little on edge, when I'm like, oh, it's a hot day, and
Do you get kind of flashbacks or anything from like rumbling trucks, or have you lived through any other earthquakes?
I've only lived through like obviously smaller earthquakes. There was one when I was in Oakland and I was sleeping. It was like 5 a.m, and that scared me really bad, because I kind of woke up and was like, this is it.
Yeah.
But it ended really soon. But I think I've had like small ones here and there. Rumbling trucks don't scare me. It's just more like the weather. I get freaked out about the weather sometimes.
Like a visceral reaction to that kind of weather. You just remember it so vividly.
Yeah, and just kind of like that precaution of like, or that trepidation of like, can't shake it really.
Yeah. What's it like to reflect 30 years later?
It's a trip. It's cool. It's interesting because, like my husband, he's from Norway, and he didn't move here till 2001. Mm-hmm. So, he has no idea, and he's heard me talk about it a lot and heard many people talk about it. He moved straight to Santa Cruz, so it's always like one of those things where we're like, how long have you been in Santa Cruz,
Yeah.
Like a rite of passage, Yeah, it's so weird. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but it does. It's kind of both. And I don't know if, I'm not sure if it's better that I was younger, or worse. Mm-hmm. I talked, me and my family talk about it all the time, and like, it's not really as vivid to them. Mm-hmm. in a weird way,
Interesting.
Yeah, they definitely remember it, of course, but I think maybe I have kind of that added child, it was a huge thing.
Yeah, that impressionable young brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think I might, I'm almost positive that I added some kind of details, not necessarily that they didn't happen, but maybe your memory is is weird.
Yeah, it could be something that someone told you and you just kind of...
Exactly.
fill
Or the
in blank.
Mandela effect. Or
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to add that we haven't covered?
I would say, for those who have not been through an earthquake, I think they really should do things to get, themselves, not, obviously you can't be completely prepared, but, don't be shocked if it happens here.
Right.
I mean, it's definitely possible.
Right.
It's
even likely. I mean,
Yes.
they say that we're
Totally.
in store for, the big one, whatever
Right,
that
right.
means.
Yeah.
That is a scary thing, though, I mean,
It
it's,
is.
nobody knows, even people who are, even if whatever your beliefs are, I have my beliefs, but I don't know, and no one does, so it's one of those things, it's scary.
Yeah. Well,
I gotta have some sort of plan, but, I have a friend who was on the bridge, in Oakland,
oh,
yeah,
wow.
like, was just getting on it, I think that's the one that,
Mhm.
yeah.
The Bay Bridge.
Yeah, and I'm drive all the time, so it's one of those things where I'm like, who knows, and you can't possibly be prepared at every moment. So
Yeah. And you can't avoid it either.
yeah, where am I gonna go?
Wrap
Help!
yourself in a bubble or something.
Yeah.
Well, great. If you don't have anything else to add, that's perfect.
That was fun. Thank you.